into playground area. So this one.
Yeah, Miss Jan.
Jan. Thanks. We're running out of pens here. Thanks. Okay, is it time? 30 seconds. Let's just jump the gun. I'm calling to order the City of Covington Board of Adjustments regular meeting for February the 20th, 2024. Roll call, please.
Ms. Butler,
Here.
Mr. Huval,
Here.
Mr. Gilly,
Here.
Ms. Williams.
Here. The commissioners have received in their packets or via technology the minutes from the previous meeting. We've all had a chance to study those. Do I hear any additions or deletions or corrections of said minutes? Hearing none, I move that we accept the minutes as presented. Do I hear a second?
A second.
Okay, roll call, please.
Ms. Butler,
Yes.
Mr. Huval.
Yes.
Mr. Gilly,
Yes.
Ms. Williams.
Yes.
Before we get into the first case on the docket tonight, I would like to say that after last month's or last meeting's fiasco, we are putting into place a new rule, and that is that their presenters or speakers, first round will go no longer than 7 minutes, and any rebuttal that happens will be no longer than 3. That being said, we'll go on to the first case on the docket, 24-02-04, a Board of Adjustments request requesting variances from Appendix B, Comprehensive Zoning Ordinance Part 3, Use District, Section 3.19 ID, Institutional, -3.1905, Performance Standard, front yard setback and/or side yard setback to permit a 5-foot setback on the Thayer Street side of the property in order to replace the current outdoor open-air pavilion with a new pavilion, and Section 4.1, off-street parking, requesting a waiver of any additional off-street parking requirements that may result from this project. The petitioner is Hoffpar Studios Architects. Mr. Rod Reed.
Just to correct something, they also need a variance on the off-street, on the landscaping. I think that was presented subsequently to you.
Yes.
Additionally, the staff review has determined that, in fact, they do not need a parking variance. They're not adding any classrooms. They're not increasing anything that would trigger parking. Of course, the whole inquiry is based on the fact that you currently have a grandfathered, non-conforming use in the form of the existing pavilion. So all of this is being triggered by their intent to demolish the existing pavilion and replace it with another pavilion. Now, regardless of the size, they would still be in the same scenario because they're building something new. But this pavilion will be larger, I think 20 feet deeper off of Thayard Street. But it will be in the same setback scenario. It's actually a little bit larger front setback. So the issue regarding the setback, why the city in your package put front yard or side yard, it's all ID institutional zoning. The school fronts on 20th Avenue, which would require a 10-foot front setback in ID. The pavilion could possibly be considered the side of the school, but the catch-22 is, because the pavilion has a roof on it, it's considered a building. So once you get to the scenario that it's a building, theoretically that building has its own frontage. You can't use the school frontage. It's a separate building. So if you presume that building fronts Thayard, the setback goes from 5 feet to 10 feet, and they're asking for 5 feet. And again, because of the new construction, theoretically, landscaping would kick in. Of course, there's no landscaping whatsoever. There's some landscaping in the front of the school, but there's no landscaping on Thayard or on, what's the other side street?
20th, I think. Is it 20?
But theoretically, landscaping would kick in. So, and this is a catch-22 in our code that's being addressed in the rewrite. Theoretically, you have a 15-foot planting area under the landscaping ordinance, but you have a 5-foot setback. You can't put 15 feet of landscaping in a 5-foot setback or 10-foot setback if it's the front of the building. So that's kind of a mishmash of overlapping requirements, but that's what's before you. 5-foot requested front setback versus the 10, and landscaping waiver, which would match what they have now.
Can I ask a general question or not? With regards to the parking in general, I thought the ordinance would be a change in the building or a change in the use.
Well, but the issue is you've got to look at the title of Section 4 on parking and what are the parking requirements of an elementary school. And it's one parking place for each 2 classrooms or 2 parking places for each classroom. They're not building any new classrooms.
But the accessories, I know in issues I've had in the past, that although like, this is not a gymnasium, I'm not saying that. But for example, for a gymnasium, that does factor into parking calculations. Now, how it factors in depends on when it's used and all that.
And you're correct, because that came up at the SSA when they attempted to build a new gymnasium, but
Right.
this isn't a gymnasium. This is an open-air pavilion. So we have made a conclusion on a staff level that it doesn't trigger parking.
Would it be considered a court since it's becoming now regulation basketball and volleyball court for games? Because there is a provision for a court. It says tennis, racquetball, or other courts is one of the provisions within that table.
Let me look at it, hold on.
While Rod is looking that up, I'm going to just veer off here for a second. And Mr. Villavasa, who we've all been sitting with here for about 4 or 5 years, has left, and we have a new firm, and we have Kara Deck Mizell is the representative for the new one, and her partner Alexa they'll be, I understand, flip-flopping back, so welcome aboard, and we appreciate your time and working with us.
Can I just ask a question? The current setback is, that right now is in place, is
5 feet.
It's 5.
5 feet is where it exists now.
That's where it is.
They
now.
want to leave, well, actually, it's 4.8 or
Okay.
something.
Yeah.
They want to go to 5.
Okay.
Theoretically, if you consider that the front of the building, it should be 10.
Should be 10. Am I right, if you considered that a side yard in this case, would it be 5 or 15? Because
If
wouldn't
you-
it?
If you talk about for the setback,
Yeah,
if you considered Bayard Street to be the side yard, it's 5.
well, would it not be a corner lot in that instance, which would be the 15 foot? I mean, I think it's good that it's the front. I'm just asking, just trying to clarify what would be
Well,
setback.
you've got the whole square is, it's kind of
Set-
hard to say it's a corner lot when the school sits on a whole square.
Okay, okay.
Frequently, that's looked at as full street.
It's to four fronts. Okay, hence the 10-foot rule. Okay.
And the same thing, if it triggers, it would trigger landscaping.
Ellen talking to the mic.
Oh, I'm sorry. I just talked to you guys about that, I'm sorry. I said, generally, if it's a whole square, it's 4 street fronts.
Okay.
And also, if it's addressing whatever landscaping, then it's generally addressed to all 4 street fronts. So it's unusual.
Okay. All right. So,
That's okay, we're just waiting for
Y'all
clarification.
can go ahead. I don't see exactly what Mike's talking about.
You
I'm
want to come
looking
show
at
you?
it. Let me see.
And there's another, I think, I forget the number. 1.1.4, I think, talks about if you change the use, might also trigger.
Well, it's the same use. I mean, they got basketball
it-
courts under there now.
But not basketball games. I think if you're
I
talking about.
think
a
there are some
regulation-
basketball, no?
No,
Okay.
this is part of it, and they explain why we're doing it, is a regulation basketball court for
Yeah.
basketball and volleyball games. If you look at the use, the current use is, I think, assembly and recess. The new use that's proposed, assembly, recess, basketball games, and volleyball games.
Hold on.
So I think a court also only added, was it two spaces for court?
True, but it still triggers it, correct. The court as such is only two, it's 2 spaces, but it does trigger.
So if you want to include the parking.
You want to
variance.
include, they need a variance on 2 parking places. Oh, I still don't see it.
because there would be 2 spaces if this is a,
A regulation.
If
A
you
regulation
considered it a change in use to add a basketball court,
Rod, do you need some more time, or we'll go ahead and, we've had a couple of speakers here. The first one is Lisa Hargrave, is that right? You want to come forward, please? State your name and address into the microphone for the record. Pull it down to, yeah.
Hi, I'm Lisa Hargrave, an architect with Off Power Studio, working for St. Peter's Church and School, and I'm only here to answer any questions you might have. So if you have anything for me, I'm certainly available, and Father Brew is here as well.
In your letter, you said something about, and that you were going, this pavilion would provide shade for children, and the pavilion that exists already provided shade. So you're saying that obviously you're going to build a bigger one with a more steep slope of a roof, is that correct? So I saw by the pictures that's what you intended.
Yeah, the existing pavilion is about 30 years old, and it's really not in very good condition, and
It's
does,
a metal building.
It's a metal
Or metal
building.
shed, I guess you call it.
and the intent here is to replace it with something that will actually beautify the school and be more functional. So it should beautify the area as well. So they're planning on like wrapping the columns with brick and doing some other nicer finishes. Part of increasing the size of it is to add kind of like 2 little lean-tos on the side that provide some extra area for the kids to use. It has, during recess or for other assemblies for school at the beginning of the day. And then they're also improving the area around it with, new playground equipment and just generally beautifying that whole corner.
I have a couple of questions.
Go ahead.
Do you plan on putting sides or temporary sides on it in
No, there are no
inclement weather?
sides. There
Okay.
are no sides planned at this time. There
Okay.
is like a little bit up at the top.
Yeah.
But on the walls, no.
Okay. And the basketball games, when will they be played? Will it be between school hours, 8 to 3?
Actually, I'm not certain about that.
Yes, Father, come forward. You both can stand at the same time. You just need your name and number. Name and address for the record.
I'm Father Bruyette. I'm the pastor of St. Peter Parish, and the address at the parish is 125 East 19th. And so as far as your question about basketball games, and speaking about it before as well, we do already have courts there. We don't have the ability to host games. And remember, we're at elementary school, not a high school. So if we did have a game, it would be immediately following a school day. And obviously the size and the scope of any game that would be played would certainly not be at a high school level, but rather at an elementary school level. But basketball season at an elementary school only lasts about a month, right? So it's a short period of time. The biggest use that we have for our current pavilion, and we would have for this new pavilion, is for our morning assemblies every day, right? We meet outside, rain, shine, So for the kids to have that ability to sit, right now we don't have air movement, fans and things of that nature. This pavilion would have outdoor fans and things of that nature, which we would make it for, just a bit more comfortable, right? So as Lisa said, essentially we're taking a 30-year-old structure that's rusted and very unsightly, and requesting to build at or about the same level off of the street. Something which is aesthetically pleasing, matches the campus, increases, just its visual appeal for the campus and for the community at large.
Father, it's been a long time since I was in school. When you say that they're going to have basketball games in an elementary school after school, what would that entail? Would parents come to that, or would that just be the students themselves?
Parents would probably come, but remember, we also have, our church, which is right next door, and so basketball games on an elementary level, you may have an additional 20 or 30, or 40 people that come, to watch a game, a school game in the middle of the week. And so, our parking around the entire circumference of our church, around the entire circumference of the Holy Family Center, and the parking that we have for the rest of our school, all the way down Washington Street, up Thayard, the back of our ministry center, which has a large parking lot that can hold a couple dozen cars. I don't see certainly any issues with availability of parking. Certainly not any issues to have to park off of our campus.
Yeah, that was my main concern.
Right.
No disrespect, Father, but the Presbyterian church is there, and that would be if they were to have, say, a wedding, an afternoon wedding, and then you have your basketball people, and then they would be, and then I was figuring it out today. I've been a customer of Equistapace for 40 years, and when I go there in the mornings early, I see the people from St. Peter's parking in their parking lot and walking their kids down to St. Peter's, which of course at that time of the morning is probably not their highest time, but it just seems, you said afternoon games, but I'm just saying that the same principle might apply. I know a lot of times overflow people will park in St. Scholastica, but I did notice the other day that they've started to put in at least one iron gate to shut off their parking lot as well, which the overflow from Aquista sometimes goes into their lot. I know I use it on a Saturday sometimes too, and, you know, just, it's the traffic issue, the congestion issue, and the density issue that, for the use of this particular building, enlarging it has got me kind of worried.
Sure. Yeah, like I said, I can certainly see a concern, but because of the fact that, you know, I mean, school would be out after a game is over, so all of our teachers are gone. You know, our parents that are conducting day-to-day business, you know, they're gone. There is the availability of an awful lot of parking. With regard to our neighboring church, our little sister community right next to us, you know, I mean, and really anywhere else, we ask people to kind of respect, you know, I mean, that those places and not park in those locations. So, certainly, you know, with regard to, you know, I mean, Mr. Steve Aquista Pace and his store, you know, I mean, I would hope that anybody that parks in the Aquista Pace's parking lot is going to get groceries there after they drop their
Not
kids off. at school.
necessarily
Right.
true. I think I had another question, but does anybody have any other? I can't remember what it was. Anybody have any further questions? Did you want to say something or just? No? No. Yeah, you don't have anything to say? Okay. All right. Adam, Aquista Pace, please come forward.
My name is Adam Aquista Pace, 125 East 21st Avenue, Covington. So I'm here representing the store. When I saw the sign about the expansion of the school, I obviously asked questions. And I talked to Father Brouillette, and he told me that they were looking for a variance to replace the existing pavilion, and so, which we feel is absolutely much needed. And so as the nearest neighbor, I just want to say that we were in favor of the replacement and the variance that it would be required for them to do so.
Any other?
And if the parking requirements apply, we're just talking about 2 spaces.
So we're dealing with that and not landscaping?
Sure.
We're just dealing with,
If someone's gonna make a motion, I would rather include it
Right.
for the,
than abundance of caution and just ignore it. It's a possibility.
And this structure will be no closer,
It's actually, I think, about 6 inches further back.
less.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, it's no closer to the street, further
No.
back from the street, as a matter of fact.
it's a little further back. And we do need to also include landscaping, the variance for landscaping.
Okay. So there'll be no landscaping required, obviously, along the Théard Street frontage.
Correct,
Which otherwise would be.
correct.
Okay. I'll make a motion.
just
go
one
ahead, I'm
second, I
sorry.
just wanted to say, there was something printed here that said, and of course now I can't find it, it was like they would be given, the variance would give them a waiver if any other problems came up in the construction. Does anybody remember that? It was like almost like a carte blanche. I don't remember where I read it. I'm sorry?
Sorry. I think that was in the letter that the applicant submitted. But that's not.
No, and we're not giving them carte blanche in any way. So this is just strictly for a variance for 2 parking lots. Okay, thank you. Yeah. Right.
And you
See,
can-
it's here in the thing that I read, Rod. It says waiver of any any additional off-street parking, so that's not the way it should be worded. Is that correct?
Well, I think that when you say additional, you're waiving the parking that would be required by the pavilion, so it's kind of same terminology. They got a general objection from the staff that they need a parking waiver, so they're saying, what we're building many square feet we want a parking waiver on what we're building, not something in the future with their specific degree.
And of course, your motion can be specific.
Pardon?
Your motion can be specific.
Yeah, your motion could be, we, make a motion that we give them a parking variance as per the plan submitted.
Which would be 2, right?
Mhm.
I can't,
I know.
Any other questions?
I don't think so.
I'll
I'm not
make,
sure.
I will make a motion to grant the variance and permit the 5-foot setback and to waive any parking requirements, which we understand would be two spaces. So we're essentially waiving the requirement of 2 spaces and waiving the landscaping requirement along Thayard Street.
A second. Is that right?
I need a minute here. I just need a minute.
Sure.
Okay. All right, roll call.
Ms. Butler?
Yes.
Mr. Huval?
Yes.
Mr. Gilly?
I can't,
He has to recuse himself.
You have,
I have to recuse myself because I live within 500 feet of the property.
okay. Ms. Williams?
Yes.
Just a reminder to the commissioners, all commissioners have to take their ethics training by the end of this month. Anything to be brought before this board other than that?
We will have a meeting on March 18th.
How many cases?
I think it's just one.
Meeting is adjourned. Well, Mr. Gill.
Thank you.
I think it's going to bring them.